Coming up on ECG, Jay and Silent Bob strike back again.
Marvel's Rebirth.
Is E3 signaling its own irrelevance?
Castlevania coming to Netflix.
All this and more coming up on the East Coast Geek Podcast. Welcome to episode 87 of the East Coast Geek Podcast for Sunday, February 12th, 2017, where we bring you all the latest news in comics, movies, and gaming. I'm your host, Jeremy, and with me, as always, is Opu. How you doing, bud?
Hey, how's it going? I'm doing pretty good, except for I can't pronounce Marvel, apparently. It sounded weird. It sounded like marble.
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 Well, Marble Madness. Marble Madness. Yeah.
Marble
all right,
Madness,
perfect.
yeah. Well,
awesome. So it's been a busy week. Obviously, like I said last week, we'd be doing the show today on Sunday because I had some stuff going on Friday and Saturday. So, but after the show on Friday,
last Friday.
Last Friday, I was able to catch some of the. Most of the Rainbow Six Invitational. It's the first full season finale of the competitive scene for Rainbow Six through the ESL, I think. It actually was really good. It was a very good tournament, very well played, very well presented. They've come a long way from their original formats of how they were showing off the game for tournaments and stuff. They actually got some competent people who know when to switch to who and where the action's going on to be able to catch all that stuff. But it was really good, and it came down to two North American teams, Continuum and I don't know what the other team was. It doesn't matter because Continuum won. But very well fought games, very diverse strategies. It was really cool. But that was the main thing I was up to last week, other than work. So. I don't know what you've been up to, but it looks like there's some Rurouni Kenshin, huh?
Yes, Rurouni Kenshin, one of the big animes of the 90s, at least for American audiences. One of the first ones I saw, along with Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon, Yu Yu Hakusho, and there was Rurouni Kenshin. If you don't know Rurouni Kenshin, it's about the restoration of Japan after a civil war when America basically brought the black ships or whatever. They came in and broke Japan's isolationism, and it was when the feudal era was overthrown and a more modern era started taking place, where a new form of government. Anyways, Kenshin, the main character, was a Batosai, a kill sword assassin, whatever you want to say. He's a very, very good swordsman, and he killed to bring about this new government. And after killing for years and years, he got sick of it and decided to try to atone for his all the deaths he caused. And now he wanders as a Rurouni, or wandering samurai, in an era where technically that's against the law, carrying swords,
right?
And trying to help people. But the exception is he will no longer kill. He carries a sword. He still carries a samurai sword, but it's reverse blade. So the blunt end is what he attacks with, and the sharp edge is always pointed towards him.
Huh.
However, just because it's blunt does not mean he cannot hurt you with it, because he's very good at hurting people.
Right.
So it was about his love. He fought rivals and stuff in the show. He tried to help people. He had a love interest, and it was about him struggling to not resort to the easy way of killing, because he's really good at killing. He's especially good at fighting. His sword style, the Mitsuru, I forget exactly what it's called, but it's specifically designed, at least in the canon, to fight multiple opponents. So that's why he's good at taking on waves of enemies really fast. So the series of live action movies came out, starting in 2012 with Rurouni Kenshin 1 Origin. At least that's what it's called in America. I finally bought them just a couple of weeks ago, all three of them, after seeing a fight scene posted on Funimation's YouTube page. Uh, Normally, when Japan, or at least their tradition has been, when they made a really good anime and they tried to transfer it to live action, it didn't make the transition very well. The effects weren't good, the scenes weren't great, the acting wasn't good, but this absolutely blew my expectations out of the water. I will backtrack and say Battle Royale was absolutely amazing, though. Yeah. They put so much detail in making it look historically accurate, because there's a lot of historical characters in Rurouni Kenshin. Obviously, the superpowers fudges the history element of it a little bit, but still.
It looks like his fighting style it looks like Haiten
Mitsurugi. Haiten Mitsurugi.
Yeah.
Anyways, they...
Great, you can pronounce that, but you struggle on other names.
Yes, I know. I'm so weird about how I pronounce things, but they went into a larger detail and try to make the transfer everything either if it wasn't taken directly from the manga or anime, they made sure that it was accurate from a historical perspective. Even their costumes, which Rurouni Kenshin, he's weirdly designed. He's got bright red hair in the manga and anime. However, in this, although it's muted, he still has the red hair, and he wears a pink his pink outfit, at least for the first one. In the second one, he transitions to several different, reflecting some costume changes that he made, or at least that were presented on the covers. The fights, it's a very bridge now, and I'm usually a stickler for keeping loyal, but first and foremost, if you're true to the characters, then everything else can work itself out. So it's the first one's abridged over the first 11 or so episodes of the anime. They stay absolutely true to the characters. Sanosuke kind of suffers the most because they just don't tell his story in it, really. So that was unfortunate, because he's my favorite character. He's a brawler type who wields a Zambatu, some kind of a massive sword designed to cleave the heads off of horses during battle.
Oh, great!
And he's obviously got super strength because he's able to move that very fast. So what else is there? I highly recommend it for Rurouni Kenshin fans. If you're a fan of samurai stories, this is a very good movie to check out. The fight scenes are fast-paced, well choreographed, really fun, really great. It's got a little bit of steampunky feel in some aspects to it too, because the Japanese were just being introduced to firearms at this time, and so you could see where the Western influence from came. This is when it's first culturally started meshing with Japan's established history. So you'll see people still dressed like Kenshin in the traditional garb, and then you'll see people in the business suits wearing like the old handlebar mustaches type thing. It's really good. I'm telling you, I highly recommend it. I've just watched the second one, Kyoto Inferno, which takes place, which is it's towards the end of the Kenshin saga, I guess you could say. But again, another really good one. They stick even more loyal to some of the more outrageous characters, so it's really impressive. And they've had to abridge a lot of stuff because it's a very long anime, not quite as long as Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, I guess you could say, but still, I highly recommend it.
So the first one was Rurouni Kenshin 1 Origin.
Yes, and the second one's Kyoto Inferno.
Okay.
And part 3 is called The Legend Ends.
Yeah, I just saw that when I was Googling it. You said this was one of your first anime?
What? Well, okay. So technically, my absolute first anime was Nausicaa: The Valley of the Wind. I saw that in preschool when it was called Warriors of the Wind. It was butchered to hell and back. But when aside from Robotech and stuff, I guess when I was a little bit younger, but those weren't set as in like actual anime. Right. From a certain perspective, because they were so butchered and chopped up. And when I consider I officially got into anime was with, again, Rurouni Kenshin, Dragon Ball Z, that kind of stuff, when they were a lot more loyal to it and were trying to let things flow as they're supposed to, not chop up the story. Of course, things were heavily censored at the time and blah, blah, blah. But
the first feature-length one I actually watched was Vampire Hunter D. I think it was... I can't remember if it was Bloodlust or whichever the first one was with the I can't remember if it was Bloodlust or not.
Okay, well, let's put it this way. Was it with the
It had
group of vampire hunters with the chick?
Yeah, it had the train.
Then that was
in
the
it
second one.
Was it?
It was like amazingly well animated.
Huh.
It had like the big black guy with the big hammer, and the ghost guy, and the main villain was the female vampire.
I can't remember. Yeah, no, it was this cover with him standing in front of the full moon. The 1985 Vampire Hunter D. So it should have been the original one. But yeah, that was my first one. The one with the vampire hunting.
What with him standing
bus.
in front of the moon? That's like 90% of Vampire Hunter D art.
Is it? Oh, okay. Well.
But yeah, I know the one you're talking about. Yes, that one. Bloodlust was the vastly superior one, but that one's still good. I really wish they would make another one.
Yeah, I like the characters were interesting. So, the only other thing I want to cover before we get out of the banter here is John Wick 2 is enjoying certified fresh status on Rotten Tomatoes at 90% critic review and 93% audience. And I need to go see that movie because I think I talked about it enough on here that if I don't go see it, then I'm
not just on here. You've been talking about it online in general.
Yeah, well, and keep reposting that video of him doing his training for the part. That's awesome, especially for a sequel to what felt, at least at first, like a throwaway, gun crazy, happy movie. And Josh, you should fix that and see it. Yeah, it looks really good. It looks like they're expanding further on the whole lore, and it's going to be kind of a Matrix reunion because Lawrence Fishburne's in the second one. So.
Oh, I'm sorry, Josh. I haven't read. Kind of like Zatoichi.
Oh.
Yeah, it's within that same genre type. Of course, I would recommend going and watching the anime first because it's longer. But these movies are really good too.
All right, well, let's go ahead and move into the first big news article in comics. The only one in the comics. Marvel's returning back to the basics, supposedly.
Yeah. So this was announced from Bleeding Cool News. So after massive fan backlash, a staggering loss of sales, and even the New York Times dropping most of their comics from the bestsellers list, seem to have finally forced the leaders of Marvel Comics to return their books back to their roots, which is supposed to begin in 2018. Bleeding Cool News reports, last week's Marvel Creative Summit, I am told by well-connected sources who have proved themselves in the past, there was more of a focus on what DC Comics internally called meat and potatoes comics. They proceeded their doubling down on the popular characters and bring back old favorites, their old favorite takes with Rebirth. I am told as Marvel brings back the X-Men line with a bang, to expect a return of more of a status quo for titles such as Thor, Iron Man, Hulk, and more. A more familiar looking Marvel Universe by autumn. Although, just as with Captain America, the classic look characters return, expect new characters to keep a number of their books. I am told that Secret Empire will be a bit of a last hurrah for this kind of politicized storytelling from Marvel for a while. A little how Marvel writers were told to get used to the Marvel 616 dimensional nomenclature out of their system before it was done away with for good.
So historically, when was the last time we had a Marvel reboot?
There's never been kind of the 90s with Heroes Reborn.
What happened?
They had that was a full reboot, like where they went back to Tony Stark first becoming Iron Man, Hulk first, Banner first. But aside from that, that went over so poorly that they had to swing it off as that's a different universe type of thing, and it was a pocket universe or whatever.
Well, is that what I was going to allude to was like the Battle Worlds, but I guess they held on to certain stories and shit others, so it wasn't really a full reboot.
Okay, yeah, with Battle Worlds, yeah, I get what you're saying now. Um, but I don't know what they even ended up changing with that. It feels like almost nothing.
Well, they kept all they did was went through and kept the publisher favorites storylines, I guess, and used those as a jumping off point to continue the stories instead of totally rebooting them. They grabbed a spot in time of a character and then moved forward from there with the new narrative from what it looked like.
Yeah. So, despite this victory for the fan base of Marvel Comics, there is a concern that they're only going this route because they've been backed into a corner. Again, their sales have been bad, the reviews have been bad. Not only is it like, okay, they're forcing these characters in there, but the quality's gone down. They're releasing comics that aren't fully edited. Like, they still had the blue lines, the trace lines, or whatever you want to say, in them. There's still, like, writing on the sides of the comic saying, okay, well, do this effect or whatever. Right. There's major typing errors in them. It's like they just don't care. So it feels like the writers and editors will try to shove down their agenda down readers' throats again later on.
Just not right now.
Just not right now. Now, remember, this is also the same team of writers and editors that have told people to eat a bag of D words. I don't know how graphic I should be on here. Among other things. So, an understanding that they need to appease the consumer isn't something they seem to realize just yet.
Wow.
They, and there's a way to introduce. Again, we've covered this 1,000 times on the show, and 1,000 other shows have covered it, and they've used more smarter words than I do. But there's ways to introduce new characters and keeping your established ones. There's ways to even pass the torch to new characters that doesn't seem forced and contrived. There's ways to create interesting characters without using the same stuff over. Oh, it's a teen super genius. Oh, we're going to make sure that they have 4 different racial backgrounds. They're half Latino, half black, half white, half Japanese, and half gay.
So that was going to be my counterpoint to the whole eat a bag of you-know-whats.
Yeah.
I understand to a certain point. It's kind of like when Ubisoft got in trouble over Unity not having any female playable characters. And it's like, guy writes a story specifically for this certain thing, and then they tell him he needs to make the character female instead. And it's like, well, that kind of destroys what they wanted to express in their story. So, in one hand, yes.
Well, here's the thing with that.
No, I'm not done.
Because I see where you're going with it. I know. I'm sorry. I cut you off. I'm a jerk. If they wanted to tell that story, then why are you working for a big company like Marvel who's going to say, okay, you're hired to write Spider-Man? Well, I don't like white Spider-Man. I want to create a black character. Well, why don't you go to Image, who says, you create whatever you want. As long as it sells, we will keep publishing it.
Right.
Or Dark Horse, or whoever, or go online.
Right.
If I go to Marvel Comics, I don't want them to stick me with, what's his name? Razorback. And the Big Pig, or the Pig Rig, or whatever his truck's name is. I want to write Spider-Man. I want to write Wolverine. I want to write Captain America, or Tony, or Iron Man, or Hulk.
Yeah.
So you go to someplace like DC and Marvel to specifically write a story about a character that they've already established, that they've had established for 60 years. Yes, you can introduce a new character to work alongside them, sure, but don't just say, well, this isn't the character I want to write.
Right.
Well, then why'd you sign that contract, buddy?
Mm-hmm. All right.
And with the gaming thing, it's,
well,
because you brought it up, that's a little different, because it's established in this world, but I guess, they should be able to write whatever character they want. They have no, Ubisoft, aside from being pressured into it, has no defense about that, as opposed to the Marvel one I just used. So yes, so you're absolutely right. The artists shouldn't be pressured when they're like, okay, this is the Assassin's Creed universe. This is what you've got to have. You've got to have assassins. You've got to have a white clothing somehow. You've got to have a knife. And you've got to have open world, and you've got to have glitches out the yin yang.
The eyeballs.
That's all you got. I just got to, you know.
Eyeballs sticking out and no face. Got it.
Yes.
And those weird mouths. All right. Did you have anything else on that, or is it?
Marvel just needs to understand that fans would love actual original new characters, not ones that just design specifically take over an established role. I'll go ahead and name off a couple. Two off the top of my head. One, Kamala Khan. She was initially introduced okay. You know, it wasn't like, okay, well she's got a Afghanistan background, whatever she was.
Right.
But this is her superpower. She wants to be called Miss Marvel because she loves Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel's currently Captain Marvel, so no big deal there. Laurie, X-23. Well, she's a female clone of Wolverine, who Wolverine eventually took in and kind of started raising as a daughter.
Right.
It makes sense. If Wolverine disappears, they're like, hey, we need a badass Wolverine character. Let's get his clone to do it. Those two kind of make sense to me. Again, another one, Captain America, when Steve Rogers disappears. Let's see. Let's go to the guy that's been his sidekick and sparring partner for the last 20 years, Sam Wilson. It makes sense.
Right.
Especially since Hawkeye, when they kind of partnered up before, he was Captain America for like 3 issues. All these other people have tried it. Sam Wilson's perfect for it. He's been there. It's not like they said, you know who we should get? We should get, just give me a second. Let's get Quicksilver. He can be Captain America. Somebody that's not, okay, they were in the Avengers together for a while.
He was already Hawkeye's shield.
Yeah. Oh, ouch.
You know, it doesn't get any easier even a couple years down the road now.
So, you know, but at the same time, Falcon was his own thing, so it can make sense that, you know, he could always go back to being Falcon. But then they turned, I'm not even going to get, so it's just, again, make original backstories, make their abilities. The reason people love Spider-Man, not just because the characteristics, because his powers were unique, especially at the time.
Right.
You know? Superman was the first superhero to have those kinds of powers. Yes, there have been strong men before, but there's never been anybody with heat vision before, X-ray vision, all that kind of stuff. Make new powers, new abilities, or just a new twist on something.
I think
something.
It sounds like you keep saying the same thing I've been saying every time they try and put somebody else in the role. Make a new character. Use some creativity. You know.
Let me tell you, with something. You know, you want to look at creative, and I hate to be like one of those guys that goes to anime and be like, oh, this is more original than what we've got now. Look at something like One Piece. They have the most insane powers in the show. They have a guy that his power is to push anything. But that means that he can push somebody across the planet, or he can take somebody that's exhausted or emotionally damaged and push their pain out of them.
Right.
Or to attack from a distance, he can condense air and push it. Or to teleport himself, he can push himself.
Right.
Like, something so abstract and weird like that, and it works as that character. You know, any attack, as long as he can put his hand, he pushes it away. Stuff like that.
Right.
I mean, you still got the normal things like a rubber man and stuff, but have fun. Just go insane with it, you know? You've got people like Black Bolt who can't talk because he blows up everything. That's unique. That's interesting. It's just frustrating.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's all I've got. Marvel's supposed to be going back to their roots, especially now that they've got all these big movies coming out, the tie-in. So, of course, from a marketing perspective, it makes sense to bring Thor back and to bring Steve Rogers back and everything like that. So,
yeah, for sure. All right, let's go ahead and move into the movies here. Good news, everybody. Your favorite stoners are back. Jay and Silent Bob.
Cheech and Chong?
Oh, good one. Good one. More recent. Some people just don't get Cheech and Chong. Jay and Silent Bob are getting rebooted. Kinda. Not really a reboot. More or less Kevin Smith running out of the ability to use other characters. I was reading through the article from, what was it, Bleeding Cool. Basically went down and said, you know, I tried to pitch a Clerks sequel and one of the actors opted out. And then tried to do Mallrats, and it turned into a TV series instead. So, which apparently I didn't hear about that, but apparently that's a thing. And finally, after all that, going through all the titles that are owned by other people, even though he's happy that was that, he's decided to go back to Jay and Silent Bob, which is kind of cool. However, it seems like, and like my title said, Strikes Back Again. The apparent plot is the Jay and Silent Bob reboot is a fun flick where the Jersey boys have to go back to Hollywood to stop a brand new reboot of the old Blunt Man and Chronic movie they hated so much.
Now, I love this premise. I mean, it's going to be, if he does it right, if he does it like the old classic Kevin Smith, it's going to be a great slap in the face of Hollywood's obsession with reboots, which everybody hates, but somehow they keep making money. Well, some of them keep making money. Rings, Fantastic Four.
Let's Rings. Yeah, we'll get to Rings later here. There's something about Jay and Silent Bob that are special. They were always those characters you watched all of his other movies for, because you knew they were going to show up somewhere. Even better was when they make cameos in other people's products. Like even though it was a Miramax film, they were in, was it Scream 3 or Scream 4?
Yeah, they appeared in Screams. One of the Scream movies.
Yeah, because they were outside the studio where they were making the Stabbed movies.
Yeah.
And
Jay
was yelling about
Bob Strike Back reference to Scream in its film.
Yeah, exactly. They did some good crossovers back and forth in the Miramax household, but those two characters are hilarious. And they always get into great hijinks. So I mean, Dogma. What's another good one that they were a big part of? I keep going back to Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back because it was such a great ensemble movie with all the people that were in there. So
yeah. Well, obviously they were in Clerks 2. They were in Mallrats. They were in Chasing Amy. They were in Dogma.
If you have never seen, and their part in Mallrats was great.
Oh yeah.
If you have never seen the Clerks TV show, you are doing yourself a disservice. You should watch it.
The cartoon was absolutely amazing.
Yes.
It ran for they made 6 episodes. They only aired 2 of them, and then they canceled it.
Right.
Oh, they showed like 2 or 3, and they showed them out of order. So
was it on Fox? No.
No, it was ABC actually.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I don't even remember it being on TV, but man, it's great. You know, they've got the founder of the city, Leonardo, and all the other characters come back and make appearances, and then Judge Reinhold gets in there as a judge. Hilarious. Charles Barkley's in there, I think.
Yeah, Charles Barkley shows up in like every episode.
Oh, and the disclaimers before the episodes. Seriously, if you haven't seen it, check it out.
It was really ahead of its time.
Yeah.
It was so underappreciated. And it made good ratings. They just canceled it out of spite.
Yeah.
ABC bought the rights for the show before they realized what it was. Because none of them had seen Clerks. Because this is a classic, like executive decision type of thing. Oh, well, people are responding to this Clerks thing. Let's buy the rights and try to mooch off of it.
Yeah.
And then they realized that 2 of the main characters are drug dealers. And they're like, oh, well, they can't be drug dealers. They have to be something else.
Maybe this doesn't.
So that's why they sold fireworks and did mischief.
Yeah. So, great. Like I said, the characters are just endearing. You love to see the hijinks. So, but I guess that's it about that. I mean, the picture is the picture on the stream if you're watching is the reveal that Kevin Smith made. He posted on Instagram the picture of him taking a screenshot of his laptop where it has the script for the reboot. So, should be interesting. I like most of Kevin Smith's stuff except Jersey Girl.
Nobody liked Jersey Girl. And what was the other one? Anything in the View Askew universe where he's allowed to have fun with it seems to be amazing.
Yeah.
Anything he gets hired to do extra sucks. I don't know why that is. But then again, some of Ben Affleck's roles at the time, his best stuff was in the View Askew universe. The Dogma was great. Chasing Amy was great from him. You know, eventually, of course, Ben Affleck now is a good actor, but before then, like reindeer games.
Yeah.
But like,
I kind of liked that movie.
kind of like a guilty pleasure type of way.
He's made a resurgence since probably like Gone Girl. That was a really. I thought
it was The Town that really brought him back.
Yeah, that was it.
That's when. Yeah.
Yeah, it really turned around. Like I said, I think I said last week, The Accountant that just came out on DVD. Yeah. Very good movie. He plays a very good role. So, all right, let's move on to the next thing here. If you'd like, you can go ahead and take this one.
Can we take it?
Yeah, go for it.
Castlevania series for Netflix announced quietly. Why would you announce something quiet like this?
Well,
it's such a brilliant concept for a show.
Yeah, definitely. But I guess how it was said was that it was kind of just slid into the program for the upcoming releases for Netflix in some kind of press thing that they had sent out. And it just said, watch for Castlevania Season 1, Part 1 coming to Netflix in 2017. Which is awesome. I mean, yeah, it says it's sitting in the middle of a press release listing the streaming content company's planned original programming for 2017. And it being a Nintendo title is kind of interesting. Or no, it's a Konami, right? Is it Konami that owns it?
Yeah, Konami owns Castlevania, I believe.
Well, not Konami now, right? They don't exist anymore.
The shadow of what Konami used to be.
Yeah.
But, I wonder how they're going to do it.
Well, that's the interesting thing, because I guess I should have just taken this, because the listing of the show was spotted by IO9 and is likely the previously rumored animated series by Adi Shankar. Shankar is teaming up with Frederator of Adventure Time and Bravest Warrior fame to make what he called a super violent series.
So it's supposed to be animated then?
Yeah, it's going to be animated.
That's absolutely awesome.
And no stranger to super violence, Shankar was one of the minds behind Dredd, which is the Carl Urban starring as Judge Dredd.
The actual good reboot.
Which was actually really good, but didn't do well in the box office, but is cult status. No doubt. I've watched it quite a few times. I really like how they did that one better than what they did with the... It's more true to the comic books than the original Sylvester Stallone one. But the other interesting thing is that Shankar was also behind the Power/Rangers short that was the ludicrously over-the-top, gritty, and unauthorized sequel to the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which starred none other than James Vanderbeek and Katie Sackhoff.
Who's also no stranger to the View Askew universe.
That's why I kind of highlighted that too. The short film of cartoonish violence and oozed with style. If this is indeed the same Castlevania series, the people involved, I'll guarantee a unique brand of insanity, which should be awesome. Makes me excited, especially when I saw that it was Shankar attached to it because of that Mighty Morphin, or the Power/Rangers video.
Yeah. Now with Castlevania, if you've never played the first one, it was a fairly unique series at the time. I guess other people have done it since then, where unlike your Marios or Sonic wasn't out by then.
It's on this thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you were one of the 5 people that got one of those.
Oh, you can get them anywhere now.
Well, initially, okay. So if you had ever played it, the first Castlevania was definitely a game where you couldn't just rush in. Like Mario, what else was there? It's hard for me to go that far.
Lots of
Donkey Kong stuff.
It was a lot of jump forward and then move back to line up the next shot, and then jump forward and move back.
Yeah, it was where you had to sit. You had to sit on a screen. You had to analyze what was happening on the screen, and then you had to make your decisions. It was a lot of look before you leap. When the things were coming down, you're like, okay, I've got to time this perfectly. I can't just rush through. It was a very challenging game, very good, very fun one. Obviously, you get it everywhere, but highly recommend it. The attacks too were interesting. Is that there was a delay with the whip?
Yeah.
So you had to time when your button presses and everything. It wasn't just an instant response, which would probably be. Well, no, I guess not really. I guess some whips. I mean, obviously whips move at the speed of sound or faster because that's how they make their sound. But just somebody's reaction time having to angle and measure the attack with a whip,
right,
is something different. And they say part 1, so I'm wondering if the series is going to take place where it's like the first part of it is going to be him doing Castlevania Game 1, Castlevania 1.
Well,
and each season, if they split it into 2 seasons, like 2017 has part 1, 2018 has part 2, with like the next one, season 2, if it obviously gets high enough, will it be like the next game?
What are they, or are they testing out the possibility of splitting up seasons at like the end or the beginnings of the year?
Oh, you mean
or having a break
in February and then?
Yeah, instead of giving us everything all at once, then stretching it out, carrying the same storyline. Though I feel like if they do that, they should just call it season 2, and but I guess
and have shorter seasons.
It stops them from, or it enables them to not have to resolve the plot by the end of the first part of the first season. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe that's what they're thinking too. Or it could just be
obviously
just
you wouldn't spend 3 seasons of him going through the castle.
Yeah,
that would get a little boring. So, another thing is, and I'm afraid that this might be some kind of slippery slope fallacy. Is if they break it up over 2, then yes, you get 5 or 6, 6 or 7 episodes in the first part, and then 6 or 7 episodes, because they do 8 to 12 episodes for Netflix usually.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Somewhere between there, yeah. So you could get anywhere between 4 and 6 episodes for part 1 and 4 or 6 episodes for part 2. Well, that would keep the span in between seasons shorter, which would be good. But then it's like, will they eventually degrade into being just a TV station and they only do 1 episode a week? Obviously, that would be so far down the road where.
Well, and this is the thing, too. If they split it up, if by chance that it doesn't come out till December, maybe we get the first season, and then the first part of the first season, then the second part happens sometime January, February, somewhere in there, and then they start breaking up the seasons more and more every couple of months, doing a release. That's why I said maybe they're just testing out a new way to release a season, and kind of only giving you so much and then giving you more later.
Yeah.
So.
And I hope that if this is animated and this is super violent, and it's not like stylized violence like Adventure Time and Bravest Warriors are, even though Bravest Warriors can be pretty dark at times.
Do they do those stop scenes when they take a swing, where it like shows?
Oh, where like it flashes?
Yeah, it flashes and it shows them coming to blows with the enemy, and then the next scene is the enemy dead.
Oh, are you talking about Bravest Warriors?
Yeah.
Now, Adventure Time does show him slicing up monsters.
Oh, well.
And Bravest Warriors, some of the, if you might be able to find it. I think the episodes are online for free, but there's one episode that sticks out because it had the guy that does Danny Carey, I guess, that did the voice for Master Shake. He was this parasite. He was like this parasite on a planet that would take people over, and he was put there because he had done crimes against the universe.
Oh, great! And
just the entire concept of that whole premise was pretty dark and hilarious. But he's like, yeah, they said something about crimes against the universe, which is weird because like there's other universes out there. Like he's trying to make it sound like not a big deal. Anyways,
yeah.
I'm excited to see this. I really hope they release a trailer soon.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Hopefully.
I mean, we haven't even, not even any major, like, still frames or even teasers have come out yet.
As I said, it was just thrown in the middle, like text. It wasn't even there wasn't a screenshot or anything. It was just text. So, we'll have to keep an eye on that. I'll definitely be paying attention to that.
Especially for it coming out this year, but okay, whatever. Yeah. Well, trust me, yes, definitely.
All right, next thing we've got. Samurai Jack trailer. I watched it really quick before the show because I'm behind. There was another one I was supposed to. Oh yeah, I haven't watched the Iron Fist trailer yet. It's been out for over a week.
Either.
All right, so Samurai Jack trailer. It shows. It's been 50 years since the end of season 4.
It feels like it, doesn't it?
It does feel like it. I need to sit down and watch those again. So they give you the break where everything looks like Aku's obviously taken over, and it's a
taking
mess.
over even more.
Oh yeah, taking over even more. And he stands the test of time because it has no effect on him, and he looks the same.
Apparently, Jack has quit aging.
There's the hand wave. it's been 50 years since the last season. You get your hand wave why he looks the same. So I kind of think it'd be neat if they would have aged him a little, but
yeah, maybe make him feel a little slower, and that would have been an interesting concept. That yes, he is slowing down, he is getting older. Maybe not a 50-year gap, maybe 5 or 6 years, and he's no longer quite in his prime where he needs to be.
Yeah, but at the same time, I guess to push the narrative further to show that Aku has taken over so much, maybe that much time had to pass.
Yeah, those big time jumps are always a tricky thing, and you can always see both sides. So
yeah.
He's not aging anymore. It's a lot more violent now, which I approve of. I think Samurai Jack needed this level of violence to begin with because it was so inspired by the old like Zatoichi movies. It was very cinematic, I guess you could say. The way it would they'd have these long periods of him just walking, and you would just see the background, which
with narration, right?
Not even narration. It would just usually be a little bit of music or silence.
Oh,
okay. But then you get to the action scenes, which they were well done, but when they're against robots all the time, it kind of loses some of its intensity. I mean, there was a few really good episodes. Like there was a robot assassin one time. The episode took place from his perspective, where he was called out of retirement to have to fight Jack, and he ended up losing, and Jack never knew this big elaborate story behind him where he was forced out of retirement to because it was either he kills Jack or the orphanage or whatever it was would be destroyed by Aku.
Right.
So it was done well, but he really needs this bloodshed and a real risk of him getting injured or wounded.
Was it bad that you said robot assassin and I thought IG-88? You know who that is or no?
Yes, I know who that is. Yes. All four of them.
All right, meatbag.
HK-47 as well.
Yeah.
So I'm actually interested in this because even though I enjoyed Samurai Jack when it originally aired, I wasn't that big of a fan where I was always obsessed with seeing the next episode. I was like, oh, well, Samurai Jack's coming on. Okay, I'll watch it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you. I think I told you about it before. I think I said it on the show. I had them sitting next to the desk of the episode after I had gotten them. I got the first couple of seasons on DVD for real cheap from Goodwill. Really nice box packaging. It wasn't torn apart or anything. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll take them. Couple of bucks.
Hey, you'd be surprised what you find at Goodwill. I found my wife found the soundtrack to the original Hellsing anime.
Oh, really?
Yes, which it's nowhere near, the animation itself is nowhere near as good as the original or the new OVAs that came out.
Right.
Hellsing Ultimate, which I highly recommend if you want to see an actual serious take on what real vampires should be like. But the music was really good, especially that intro, even though I have no clue what he said. Even though I think he was speaking English in it, still made no sense, but it was so awesome.
I think you tried to get me to watch that, and I got distracted by other shows. Hellsing Ultimate. Because it's on Hulu, I think. I think it's on Hulu. Alright, last thing in the movies.
Yes, this popped up real quick. Yeah. I'm sorry, this popped up real quick this week. I don't know if it's just a rumor or if it's been official. So the Friday the 13th reboot is dead. They just rebooted it though, didn't they?
I think so.
Like 2014? 2015?
I think that's when that I don't always but when I do it's great.
So let's see. When Friday the 13th, real quick. You can read it off while
alright. So though no true answer has been given at this time, it is believed that it is due to the failure of Rings that the horror movie reboot is dead, at least for the time being. And Rings, I didn't even look it up. I meant to before the show, but Rings just came out last week, I think. And it opened to garbage. It has a 5% on Rotten Tomatoes. Let's see. Well, they met their budget. I don't ever remember seeing much in the way of advertisement. And yeah, this is an addition or a reboot of the original Ring, the Ring movies. Budget was $25 million, and it box officed at 38.6, and they were expecting a lot more than that. Yeah, it was really. Oh, it was released last week, Friday, whichever day the February the 3rd was. It didn't make exactly what they were expecting, so it's given them cold feet on rebooting Friday the 13th. Maybe holding off for now and keeping it in the bag for a little while.
The last time it was rebooted was 2009. So yeah, horror movies have kind of sucked so far this year. I know it's kind of still early in the year, but Rings was bad. What was the other one? The Bye Bye Man.
Well, I don't remember that.
It's terrible. It's like they stole a lot of ideas from the Slender Man mythos.
Okay.
Where the villain is a meme in a way, and not like the funny pictures.
Like
kind
of meme,
like an infectious idea.
Yeah, no, I got
the
you.
Way, yeah, the original meaning of the word.
What do you?
They were trying to avoid saying his name or something. It was stupid.
That's like an urban legend kind of thing, like Bloody Mary or the Candyman. Oh God.
But yeah, you had to go. You had a specific routine how to summon them. You had to go to a mirror with lights off. This guy, you just have to know his name and have said his name out loud, and it basically then he starts haunting you in a way.
I mean, I guess, but it's the same thing.
But yes,
I mean,
they're all the same thing. All these urban legends are always the same thing like that.
The people demand better horror plots.
Yes. Split was supposed to be better. I haven't seen it, but
apparently a box office smash, and apparently towards the end of the movie there is a reference to Unbreakable.
Yeah, there's supposed to be Unbreakable 2 coming out, but I don't think it needed a sequel.
I know, and that's the worst part is when you don't think there needs to be and there is, it usually means the movie's gonna suck.
Yeah.
But what if he does it good? That first movie was amazing.
Okay, so he's made like 10 movies and like 4 of them are good.
Well, I guess. I mean, Sixth Sense, Unbreakable.
Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, and Split.
Split, which is the new one, which I heard is phenomenal, actually.
So those are the only 3. He also, remember, he made
Avatar: The Last Airbender. That's his fault.
Yes.
He needs to be put in a grave for just that alone.
Yes, exactly. His career should have never come back from that. Devil, which was his comeback movie, sucked. I mean, it was mediocre at best.
Yeah.
Then he had that Lady in the Water movie, which is terrible. The Village was stupid.
Listen, he's had some good twists. I mean, The Village was pretty dumb, but the twist at the end was really good.
Well,
it kind of.
Here's the thing.
But it was almost like what's telegraphed. You almost knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah. First of all, his first mistake in that movie was showing the monsters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they look like the monsters from the Dark Crystal. Second of all, that was a movie where he thought of the twist first, and then he tried to backtrack
to it.
from
Yeah.
there, and it was so paper thin that it just was terrible.
You want to know who's really good at writing horror stories? Stephen King.
Christie?
Stephen King.
Oh.
No, Agatha Christie did detective mysteries. Miss Marple, Hercule Poirot. Nice try, though.
Indians?
Stephen King. One of my favorite movies from when I was younger.
Stuff in her book.
Okay. Not as good as Stephen King. One of my favorite movies when I was younger was The Langoliers. And it was kind of like, H.P. Lovecraft's another good one, Josh. It's
That's
more
real
like
unfair.
insanity.
He made an entire genre by himself. It's hard to compare anybody to somebody like him.
So the Langoliers did what I was so upset about Falling Skies with. The Langoliers, they didn't show what the bad guys were until towards the end of the movie. Technically miniseries because it was two night worth of movie with David Morris being the pilot of the plane. But uh,
Oh,
Falling-
is that the one where they fly
eat-
through a time gap?
yeah, and then they end up in dead time basically, and the Langoliers are the things that eat up the past, so they're not there anymore. And there's these saw blades of teeth in a triangle. It's so great. But Falling Skies, like, I started watching that show, and within the first, like, 5 minutes of the first episode, they showed the aliens. I was like, well, there's no point for me to watch this now. So I haven't watched it since. So
The problem with Stephen King is that he has these good books, but then they get put into
sometimes they
film,
don't translate.
and they suck.
Sometimes.
Well, with the exception of Christine, Carrie, Cujo, and The Mist, and it kind of
Keep going. He's done plenty of stuff that have been.
Langoliers, though, when I watched it, like, the whole premise was scary, but then, I guess because I watched it a little past its prime, you know, when it first came on, the CGI and stuff was good, but it just looked so bad when I watched it the first time.
Okay.
And maybe that was unfair to me.
Shawshank Redemption, which everybody argues.
I didn't know he wrote
that's
that.
one of his short stories.
Gary
Arguably
Mile. I'm thinking the horror ones.
The Shining.
Straight. The what one?
The Shining.
The Shining, okay.
Pet Sematary. The Stand.
I never watched The Stand.
Oh my God, so many. Maximum Overdrive, which was a terrible movie.
Yes.
Firestarter, Secret Window with Johnny Depp.
Never watched Firestarter. Secret Window was good.
The Dark Tower is coming out this year, but that's not really a horror. That's one of his.
But you just said Shawshank Redemption. That's not horror.
Yeah.
Anything that doesn't have to do with horror, they translate it perfectly. Like, okay, so you got Shawshank, you got Green Mile, you got
1408 with John Cusack. That was
that
good.
his?
Yeah.
That is a good one.
That one's a good one. Children
But
of
maybe
the
he's
Corn.
batting about 50.
I mean,
50%.
you're good. he wrote the short story that The Running Man was based on with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
It wasn't a short story.
Was it a book?
Did he? Yeah, it was a book. I thought.
Okay.
Which was weird because in the book he is running across country, not in like an underground game thing. Did you read it?
No, I've never read it. That's why I thought it was.
Oh.
I figured it was a short story because usually his horror books are the ones that get turned into movies, and his short stories are the ones that get thrown into the other movies like Shawshank and all that. Stand By Me was another one of his. Which wasn't really a horror movie as much as a coming of age type movie.
Yeah, but the weird thing is I read. When did I read it? I don't know.
Carrie's been rebooted. I mean, Carrie's been rebooted too.
Yes. Like twice, hasn't it? Wasn't it like
did
they
about
make
to.
it for TV again?
Oh,
they made it for TV after the fact, I thought, and then they rebooted it.
Did you ever see Dreamcatcher?
No.
That one was interesting too. That was a good one.
No, I never
Silver
watched
Bullet,
that one.
The Lawnmower Man. There's so many.
I don't know. I don't think the
Tommy
Lawnmower
Knockers.
Man has aged very well, though.
Probably
Doesn't
not.
really withstand the test of time. Like,
I didn't know he wrote Apt Pupil.
I never watched that.
That's the one with John Hurt playing a Nazi officer in hiding later in the future, and there's a kid who's infatuated with Nazism.
So he starts teaching the
Yep,
kid,
yeah.
and he starts becoming he starts regressing into his old mindset.
Yep.
I never watched it, but I've heard of it.
I don't see Rose Red on here, but Diary of Ellen Rimbauer's in here.
Rose Red was a
That was
miniseries.
Yeah, I know. But well, yeah, I guess so because the Diary was a movie. It's supposed to be a prequel to it, but yeah. So, I mean, I one way or the other you can argue, but yeah, horror movies have been lacking lately. You're better off looking in the past.
Yeah.
So, or reading.
They just don't. I don't know. They either try to reboot them or they just don't understand subtlety anymore. It feels like. I don't know.
All right, let's torpedo this last article here in gaming as soon as I get the soundboard back up because the tablet.
Gotta Google everything.
No, my tablet timed out.
Oh.
What? No. Play the game. It wanted to stop working. Alright, picture. Last one here. E3 open to the public for the first time ever in history. Since I think it started in 95. Was when the conference started. This is not really a good sign, though last year there were huge reports out of E3 that it undersold. And I think they're trying to make up for that fact, because it's always been you have to be in the industry or in the press. Press passes were the most popular ways that people have been going. And I know a person who writes for GameSpot, and I can go with them. You know what I mean? It was like that. That's basically what you're getting, was mostly that. So they were still getting the average person in there, but mostly press or fellow members of the industry of video games. So this year, they're opening up 15,000 tickets at $250 a piece, or $150 with the early bird special on release, which I don't know when the release date is for the tickets yet. Should be soon. Yeah, 15,000 tickets, Josh. That's not close to what the max capacity is, so it's kind of interesting too. Maybe just a trial, but at the same time, and I like how you said you were going to say this too. Is this signaling the irrelevance of the conference? And a huge factor in this, as you've noted here, is BlizzCon. You also have PAX East and West and PAX South. So PAX has 3. That all it is it's actually a combination of video games and board games. You have Gamescom in Cologne, Germany. What else?
There's plenty of, like, even Comic-Con and stuff do video game stuff now. Oh, and board game stuff. I follow several board games on Facebook, and they're like, oh, by the way, we're going to be at this con this weekend showing off the game. Showing off their new games. Because isolating it to just one big con doesn't make you money. Going to a bunch of different cons and play testing it, letting people, especially with board games, because it's really hard to teach. You've got the instructions there, but it's hard for the game to teach itself to you, as opposed to like a video game, which can say, okay, well, you can only, in order to show you how to run, you do this.
Right.
There's all guesswork taken out of it, and wording. I'm like, oh, well, this can mean 2 things. Sorry, that's kind of a tangent, but yeah, signaling the irrelevance of the conference itself. Yes, the internet's done amazing things with how it's lessening the journalism aspect and making response back and forth between the creator and the consumer like instant.
Right.
BlizzCon, we can watch that live on our computers. I did it this year. I don't know if I really enjoyed it, but I enjoyed some of it. That's just it was one of those not many big announcements ones.
Yeah, this was an off year. Everything's on cooldown.
Yeah, I should have waited like a year or two for the next one, but I got a mug out of it. Anyway, so Nintendo already does the Treehouse, and they do direct messaging all the time.
Right, they've skipped E3 for the past 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah, they just send a video.
Yeah,
usually.
Maybe a couple of products in a smaller booth, if that. So.
Yeah, they might have a booth where they let some games get played, but they don't. Reggie doesn't go out there,
the problem with this though is that it's. While there's room for independent developers, especially with the stuff like, what just happened? GDC is this week, I think. The Game Developers Conference.
Yeah.
Which is another that should be an industry-only event with the press along with it, because that is where those developers can showcase what they've done this year and what they plan to do, and also it gives those smaller places like, well, not really smaller, but like Unreal can showcase their engines and sell it to EA to use.
You're saying it's a more
games.
technical
it's
conference as opposed to an entertainment conference.
E3 has traditionally always been like the big electronics expo. I mean, it's electronics entertainment expo. You used to have the big stuff with the computers, early stuff, early development of computer stuff especially for gaming. But not just gaming. Some new technology, especially with wireless hitting the stage a while ago. But now it's turned into a game conference. It should just be an open conference. I mean, they're not making any concessions to show off certain things like they would at the GDC. This is here's our stuff that's coming up next year. Or in the next year, come check it out so you can take a look at it now and see how it gets downgraded later. At least that's the opening lines for the Ubisoft ones. But they're not. It's not a technical thing. There's no reason why it should have been a closed conference, anyways. Maybe ever since the GDC existed, maybe that was when E3 should have been an open conference. But I think it's too little, too late. A lot of stuff gets shown at like I said, at PAX, at one of the 3 PAXs, because they do Seattle, I think Boston, and
they have
and Austin.
They have the original in Seattle, and they have East
in Boston.
So do they have Boston now?
But they also have Boston's.
It'd be nice if they had a southern one.
They do. PAX South just happened last week or the week before in Austin, Texas. So.
Where did it happen at?
Austin, Texas.
Oh, that's PAX West. South is Georgia or Florida or South Carolina or Alabama.
At any rate, there's that. Blizzard doesn't make any big announcements now unless they do it at BlizzCon, or they've been traditionally now releasing new cinematics at Gamescom in Germany. There's also the Tokyo Game Show. That's another one. That's another big one. That is exactly what it should be, a showcase to show what they're giving to you in the next year. And it's not a press event. It's not a industry event. It is a fans event. It's huge. It's a huge deal for Sony, Nintendo, and not Microsoft. Microsoft still goes, but you know what I mean. It's huge, especially because it's in Tokyo, Japan, for Sony and Nintendo, because that's their big breadwinners. As much as we'd like to think that the U.S. puts a lot of money towards Nintendo, Japan's nuts about Nintendo and Sony. So,
well, they're majorly based directly out of Japan, so it behooves them, I should say, for Japan to really push those two,
right?
Because they are very big brands, not only across the world, but like you said, in Japan.
Yeah,
Microsoft obviously not so much, but
I'm always envious of Japan for Nintendo's products, because I've heard that it's nothing but street passes everywhere in Japan, where here for the 3DS you can't get anything unless you go to a McDonald's. So
if you go, you might get lucky at some malls sometimes.
Yeah, some theme parks.
Some theme parks occasionally.
Hershey.
The cons.
The cons, yeah. So it feels like it's going the way of like San Diego Comic-Con, where it's become so little for a big event that it's not doing what it needs to do. So
yeah. Is that a ghost?
No, that's my dog.
Oh, you're right. It might be a little too late for E3 to adapt and overcome at this point.
Right.
But there's so many others out there doing it and doing it better. And again, with the internet, they should have been doing this. They should have been selling internet passes 5 years ago, at least.
Yeah.
6 years ago. Shit, what? 2017? About 7 years ago or more.
Yeah.
Because at the very least, only the press can get into the conference itself, and they're going to have some exclusive stuff. But we're going to show some stuff to the fans, and the other places like BlizzCon, they do more things. No, they show tournaments and stuff. You know,
that's been a huge addition, especially with the advent of esports for Blizzard titles. Even though they've always kind of existed with StarCraft and stuff like that, but that addition alone, people can't decide whether they want to go watch their favorite player play in the Hearthstone tournament or they want to go to the panel that's talking about the new cards coming up.
It's definitely tricky because I wanted to watch some gameplay stuff.
There is some, and you can always go back to those.
Oh yeah, I know I can.
Later,
but like when I was in the moment.
Yeah, I lost my train of thought. There's even been talk that they may split all their electronic sports tournaments out of BlizzCon and make it back into what it was, where it was the conference where the players and the fans can get in there and ask questions to the game developers to get insight and be heard by the developers for their input.
They really should do something like that because one, the tournaments are just getting too big because you have them like back to back. So I might,
and not only back to back, but also technical difficulties delayed a couple of the tournaments by like 3 hours. People were sitting there waiting for it to start because there was an issue with a server stack or something like that.
Which they have them isolated, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
They should have their own servers that they're working like just for that conference.
Yeah, they have them isolated so that it reduces the latency and all that too between the players. So, but yeah, they have that. It's just that there was an issue with the stack, so that was causing issues. I think it was Heroes of the Storm, which that was announced too. Heroes of the Storm was announced for I think April. So
that's the one for them to win college.
I'm going to put that in the notes for next week. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that next week because there's been some changes to that. But I guess it may sadly be the book closing on E3 here soon.
At least the way we know it. I'm sure somehow they're going to probably either somebody will buy it out and spin it into something else, or it's going to completely adapt into something new. It has to if they want it, or like you said, they might have to just cancel it.
Yeah,
because everybody else is covering the same stuff and doing it better at this point.
Well, I'm
tired of reading.
What's even worse
on other websites. I want to see it directly.
What's even worse is you get things like the very first night before all the big stuff kicks off. Bethesda does their launch. Well, the problem with that is you watch the Microsoft press conference and you watch the Sony press conference, and during their, hey, this is what's coming to consoles, you see all the stuff that you've already seen in the other conferences.
Yep.
So, there's a little retread. And I mean, it's not just Bethesda. It's you see Ubisoft stuff, and all of a sudden, hey, look, The Division's big Microsoft title. And so on and so forth, It's just there's a lot of overlap in it as well. So, yeah, I think it's pushing itself into irrelevancy. So, we'll see it. We'll see it change probably soon. Maybe next year we'll see a bigger either it announce that it's just an open conference, or maybe they'll change the format and a new thing will be born. So,
well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. But I guess that's all we got on it for now. Thanks for listening, everybody in the chat room that's come in, and all of you that download and listen to us every week. Please leave us feedback on our episodes on iTunes, Google Play Music, and anywhere else you get our podcast from. It'll help with visibility so others may discover us as well. And share with your friends too. And please like, share, comment, and subscribe on YouTube, where we're currently talking to you.
Hey, share with your enemies as well. Share with everybody.
Yeah.
So you can contact us at ECG_podcast on Twitter, at our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/ECGpodcast, or our email address at ecgpodcast@gmail.com. Also visit us on our webpage, www.stasisgeek.com. That's STASISGEEK.com. Or, like Jeremy said, post a comment. I think you said that. I wasn't paying attention. I just have my notes here.
All right, we'll be back next week. Until then, stay geeky.